details, then dial your operator.
Have no fear, fellow citizens. The Mediator is here.
Good morning and welcome to this week's edition of The Mediator with me, your host, Brian West, here to give you the top 8 headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. Now, as usual, I'll give you the top 8 local headlines and developing news stories that made it first, followed by a movie clip, a skit, a trailer, or something that's going on in the community, or maybe some pictures. And then I'll give you the top 8 international headlines and developing news stories that made it, folks. So let's waste no time. Woo-wee! Let's get to it. Story number 1. One local story about addiction recovery that we all can learn from. Not many people live to talk about their drug addiction recovery, folks. That's because some of them never do recover. And for years, many local residents have been overwhelmed with relatives struggling with drug addiction. Ron Zolden, who is the vice president of Phantom Fireworks, has come out sharing his struggles with addiction recovery. Give him some credit. That's very hard to do. Now, this story resonates through the ears of so many local people still struggling with addiction and have yet to seek help, or speak out about their struggles. Now, according to Zolden, his struggles began with his prescribed opiates for pain. Story number 2, a prosecutor and a self-defense program. A self-defense trauma-informed outreach program, that's what it's called, is the new program launched by Gina DeGenova. Now, the course will be taught by Mercy Health Police Chief and certified self-defense instructor Ryan Bonacci. Now, there will be no fee to take the class. There will be training on 3 core components according to a local Vindicator report. Now, education on local laws and local victim services will be one of the courses. Awareness and confidence building and physical training. Now, the goal will be to increase the confidence of participants to enable them to use the skills learned in response to any potential conflict and or violent incident. Story number 3. Where are the foster care facilities? Folks, Trumbull County Children's Services reports that they have 130 children in foster care looking for homes. The story made it in because the growing need for foster homes continued to creep in and out of national headlines. Story number 4, car thefts on the rise in Boardman. An uptick in car thefts has made the headlines, and police continue to investigate. And at the moment, investigators are not optimistic. Car thefts have not just been reported in Boardman, though. Reports in some other surrounding communities have been reported on also. They've been in the headlines. Now, according to one local news story, it appears that organized criminal groups are causing the spike in theft. Story number 5, local teens in trouble again at the Canfield Fair. Now, last year, teens brought the guns out at the Canfield Fair. They got in trouble. This year, according to a Vindicator staff report published September 5th, 4 juveniles were arrested after a fight broke out at the fair, putting more attention on the teens and the young youth around the community. The teens, get this, were 13, 15, and 16. Story number 6. Lordstown receives an update on its EV electric vehicle production and what they're going to do. After a continued feud with Lordstown Motor Corp's, Foxconn is back in the local headlines in what appears to be a deal with a Southern California-based electric vehicle maker, Fisker Inc. And they're in the deal is for the manufacturing of its Pear crossover in July of 2025. Now, this report surfaced September 2nd in the Vindicator. Now, Foxconn and Lordstown Motors are both currently trying to iron out some issues when it comes to internal deals made between the two companies. The story is still developing. Story number 7 and the top 2 local headlines and developing news stories that made it this week for you to keep you informed. That's all I'm here to do. I'm not here to lie. I'm not here to cheat. And darling, I'm not here to steal. I'm here to show love with 8 top stories, local and international. That is my duty. Story number 7. Firefighters have been busy. Big headline. Now, the Vindicator has a report in circulation about the uptick in local fires, if you didn't know. Now, the report goes in detail about how some fires have been back-to-back straining local fire departments. Now, one report says that from 4:14 to 6:09, probably, I don't know if the article mentioned AM or PM, but the department received 3 alarms in that time span. It's not too far apart. Now, all of which were massive fires. Now, the recent news about how emergency calls have increased over the years is what got this story in. Story number 8, and the top local headline and developing news story that made it this week, folks. I promise you that this is my duty, my destiny, to study hard, read stories to not only cheer on those who do good things, but to keep you informed. Ooh, yeah, I could be somewhere off in the galaxies, but I am here, transforming on a daily basis, putting my suit and tie on, sometimes with the stars and stripes, to keep you informed. Story number 8, the top local headline and developing news story that made this week. The strike goes on, folks. Folks, these are the teachers, the students. We all once were in that position. Now, the teachers' strike carries on after 2 weeks. While striking, it appears that teachers are not getting paid. One report says that they received their last paycheck August 25th. Folks, I went around and asked some questions. It also appears that some of these teachers in the past have had some hand-to-hand combat with students, according to a source I found. And they say it did not turn out very well. Now, a fundraiser has been set to aid those on strike. Folks, these teachers have been through a lot over the years in Youngstown, and why not make it the battleground to get their point across while students are suffering without them? But from what I'm hearing, the story has a lot of more details to it that hasn't been reported over the years. We're talking fights, parents, bad students, and on top of that, the changing of the guard over and over again. The strike goes on. Now, there are multiple rumors circulating about the real reasons for the strike, but at the moment, Jim Corum has only stated just a few. Now, in question is what was actually taking place internally within the school district and classroom that would later cause the teachers to sacrifice their own paychecks to strike. Folks, this story is still developing. Now, according to one report by the Vindicator, some local Democrat reps are stepping in to assist. And once you start involving politics, that's when activists start getting very concerned, because this is the future and education of students. Folks, story number 8 is just getting intense, and as of this show, a deal was not reached as the recording of this show. Well, folks, those are our top 8 local headlines and developing news stories that made this week. I'll be right back with the top 8 international headlines and developing news stories, so don't you go anywhere. You're in the Mediator with me, Brian West. I'll be right back. Big headlines. I'm here with my guests. We got the cast of The Pedagogue, the newest film we're about to release. We've got the premiere September 23rd, and I'm going to talk to them not only about the education system, but about some of their experiences on set, working on an educational project, and on top of that, their characters. And we'll also talk a little bit about the movie itself, what the movie is about. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. You're in the Mediator with me, Brian West, and the cast of The Pedagogue. Welcome back. Now it's time to get to the top 8 international headlines and developing news stories that made it this week, folks. The 9/11 anniversary is amongst the masses here in America. Patriots Day, as they call it now. I remember I was in the War on Terror. I did not see combat, but you might as well say I was scarred from seeing. I was not too far away from the base by the towers. I was in Virginia, and anybody who's from New York knows that's about a few hours away from New York. That's I'll say about 5 or 6, probably about maybe 4, 3, depending on what part of Virginia you're in. And yes, I did witness the towers going down. I was so traumatized that I did end up, after a while, in the hospital. I had some cognitive brain failures, and I just like many Americans, I learned how important people care about sports sometimes, and actually what was actually going on a global stage. I had to learn. And when I was in the hospital, I was so motivated. I'll never forget it. I was watching some of the sports channels, and I seen a kid that I grew up with. Never forget it. He was. I was in the hospital all trying to get better and all medicated up, and I seen him playing football on TV, and I was pretty excited. I thought for that moment, when you're a soldier, you're like, man, did I make the right decision? And you see these guys in sports, and they got so much love and attention. And I seen the guy on the press conference, and I was happy to see somebody from a city that I come from on TV. And the city was so violent that when you're a soldier, sometimes you're like, man, that's a lot of love. And when you're in pain and you've been on the battlefield, you don't get a lot of love. You get you get letters from like places like the U.S. Soul. Little kids send you letters, but I'll never forget those moments. And when I got home, and after a while, you see the transitions, and you see people kneeling for the anthem. And I got a rude awakening as a former sailor, as a former soldier. Sometimes still feel like I'm on the battlefield. I got a rude awakening when I got home, because I had found out that America sometimes is more fascinated with sports, than they are with actual matters that actually affect us all, serious matters. So I'll never forget. I go to a football game, little league football game, and I see some of the parents out there, and I mean, they'd be up there, and I never forget it. I went to a football game, and I was talking to somebody, and parent got all upset with the coach. You gonna put my son Junior in? Coach was he was sitting there. What you talking about? Put him in? I didn't put him in 3-4 times. He done fumbled the ball. Fight broke out. People throwing footballs, parents chasing the coach around. Somebody pulled out the gun. Bang, bang. People running and scattering. And I'm sitting there still traumatized. Oh, Lord. Then I see one player over there kneeling when the national anthem came on. And I said, whoa, America's changed. I talked to my Muslim friend after that. And me and him just walked out, and we made peace while everybody fighting over a football game. I detailed his car after that game, and we sat, and I showed him pictures of me in the military, and that was it. And this 9/11, I'll probably be reminiscing on the good old days, and maybe I might even decide to tune in to some old video or football games if I find the courage to see when they used to rise and got over the fact that people were kneeling for the national anthem. Maybe they'll rise up again. America the beautiful. Well, folks, that's our story for this week. Happy Patriot Day. Let's get to story number 1. How chips became important in China. China has launched a $40 billion state fund for semiconductor manufacturing, according to Fox Business. Now, this is important because the U.S. and its allies have sought to restrict the country's access to advanced chips over concerns that the Chinese government could use them to speed its military modernization. modernization. Now, and further, and the report goes on to say, and further, their internal repression, according to the report. Story number 2. What does young America have to say about student loans? Folks, Bloomberg has a piece headline that student loan borrowers paid off billions before interest restarted. Well, before the loans restarted. The report is kind of it's brief, but it does get to the point. The report goes on to say that student loan borrowers paid down billions of dollars in debt as they prepared for the end of a federal freeze on payments and interest. Now, this shows that borrowers have lost hope in the forgiveness program. Some people have reported that they were forgiven for these loans, but there's a mixed report going on, folks, because this story is still trending and it is still developing. That's why story number 2 made it this week. Story number 3. The Keystone story is back in the headlines. A report issued by the U.S. Department of Energy states that the Keystone XL pipeline would have created between 16,000 and 59,000 jobs and would have had a positive economic impact on of between 3.16 to 9.6 billion. That's if they would have kept it, if they would have kept the project going. Whew. Now, the article goes on to admit that the Biden administration has finally owned up to the killing of the project. The story was released on Steve Daines' website, a U.S. senator from Montana. Story number 4. Something is happening in the housing market. One report in Business Insider says housing prices may rise despite mortgage rates and high home values. Now, this is all due to a lack of inventory and affordability, according to recent headlines. How this happens stems from a lack of investments into affordable housing. Inflation has also played a factor in prices, while inventory has played a factor in building to meet demand. Low inventory, if you want to be exact. Now, this story is still alive. That's why story number 4 made this week. Well, folks, those are our top 4 international headlines and developing news stories that made this week. I'll be right back with the top 4. So don't you go anywhere. You're in the Mediator with me, Brian West. I'll be right back. Welcome back. Now it's time to get to the top 4 international headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. Folks, I'm reminiscing on my 9/11 adventures because that was the war that I was in that broke out, the war on terror. And I'll never forget when I got home, I had dreams, and I seemed to love performing, wanting to express myself. I was an artist when I was a kid. I used to draw and do all types of artwork. Write. I was actually, when I was in the military, I used to write all these manuscripts. Never really edited heavily, but I used to write all these stories, Christian stories, stories about triumph and trials, and Christian, all different types of manuscripts. I used to enjoy doing this. And when I got home, me, my dad, and my mom, we all took a trip up to New York because I wanted to start doing comedy. Never forget it. We drove all the way up there, and I wanted to do some jokes about politics and about my life. And it didn't turn out as well as I thought it would. I got up there, come to find out first started with the room that didn't have anybody in it. Then I got bumped up to the room that had everybody in it. And what I found out was that some people have no clue, don't even study, don't follow, and they don't know anything about politics. Because when I was telling jokes, nobody knew what the hell I was talking about. Nobody. And it got so bad that the guy who was hosting the event, he kind of caught on, and instead of making fun of them, he started making fun of me because I kept mentioning the word dog. I came back in the day, that was a big time word. That's my dog. That's my dog. And, come from a part of inner city. But he called me. When I got, after a while, he said, it's going to be all right after the show. And once he saw what had happened over the years, I'm going to make this up, but he called me up again. And this is after something that broke out. And never forget the phone rang. First it was an email, and then he said he was going to call, and I got the phone rang. And some stuff had just broke out in politics. You know, it was probably about years later. And he called me up. I think Obama got elected, then Trump got elected. And I finally got a call back to this comedy club. Never forget it. Got the phone call. Hello? Who is this? He said, this Mickey from the comedy club. He said, dog, it's going down. If they didn't know about politics then, they know about it now. Look at this. You got a line of jokes, brother. We just had a half American. Now we got a half Republican. And on top of that, you got a former president. You gonna do the show? Okay. Listen, we just need the jokes. We don't need nothing about Osama. We need jokes about Obama and Donald. Can you do that for me? And listen here, since you're a veteran, you don't have to pay. But the people you bring do. There'll be I know you don't drink, and I know you don't smoke weed, but now they allow us to smoke weed in the building. So there'll be a minimum of 3 or 4 guests. And on top of that, you'll get free parking in the lot. Yo, so you gonna do it? I tell you this again. If they didn't know about politics, brother, they know now. Talk to you later. Peace. And that was my experience with the comedy club when I got back from serving in the war on terror. Let's waste no time, folks. Let's get to it. Story number 5. The child care story is staying alive. The Washington Post says that as federal funds dry up, child care is about to get even more expensive. The report states that 70,000 child care centers are expected to close, which will leave parents with even fewer and less affordable options. Now, the story goes on to cite multiple stories showing how bad this is already getting. Now, Democrats are calling for $16 billion in emergency child care funding this year, while Republicans are pushing to slash safety net programs. And a government shutdown could result from the widespread disagreement that's going on between Republicans and Democrats over budget policies. This is even after an influx of federal spending. Story number 6. Banks are important, and they have a story to tell also. One Reuters report says that U.S. banks held $3.3 trillion in cash amid the banking crisis. Now, the report says that they're holding on to these large piles of cash as insurance against the economic slowdown. Now, the article states that continuing deposit outflows and looming tougher liquidity rules that could particularly impact mid-sized banks is also playing a factor. The collapse of Silicon Valley Bank and Signature Bank in March still has the story trending, and all eyes are on the banking business. Story number 7 and the top 2 international headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. Whew. No sweat. I can do it. Story number 7. The immigration saga continues, folks. New York City Mayor Eric Adams says that an increase in migration would destroy the city, and he's pointing the finger at the Biden administration as immigration, migration, however you want to call it. Now, Texas Governor Greg Abbott has revealed that Texas has sent over 35,000 immigrants to blue cities, according to the Washington Examiner. Now, New York City was one of the cities mentioned in the report because 13,300 were sent there, according to the report. The story is still developing. Story number 8 and the top international headline and developing news story that made it this week. Folks, I know there's a lot of news programs out there, but I developed this program because I'm not only a witness, but I've seen it myself. I told you that the comedy story was actually a true story. Some of it, well, the ending wasn't, but the beginning was. I found out at an early age that a lot of people do not know and do not follow the people that they elect in office. So here I am, 9/11 is over. I've served, and now I've got well. I've got better, and I'm a living witness of what the power of God can do when you do pray and you do stand firm. Now I'm here. Never thought I would be here, but I'm here. I was in the war on terror, and I made it out somehow. I made it home alive, and somehow God kept His promise. Because this is an independent program. It's paid for by me to keep you informed. So let's get to this top story. Story number 8. Going back to school is a little different this year for some areas. Axios has a piece stating that kids are going back to school, but workers are not. The report continues stating that local government, employment, and schools have not recovered from the pandemic. The report goes on to state that there may not be enough teachers because the country is struggling to hire them. Now, some teachers are on strike. Now, the article goes on to say COVID is the reason, folks. This story is still developing right around the time when we need public servants the most and teachers are needed the most. They helped me over the years. A teacher used to come from Cleveland just to train me how to get better. A teacher helped me graduate, and why not this 9/11 dedicate this show to all the teachers, the doctors, the public servants that helped me get to this point where I would be funding a show that would actually be of use to my fellow citizens. Well, folks, I hope you got something out of today's program. That's it. That's the local and international headlines and developing news story. I hope you guys something out of today's program. I always get something out of doing the research. As usual, I thank all the news outlets, the journalists, the people on the front lines, the media. You deserve all the credit. I'm just the mediator, the man in the middle. If you want to show us some support here at Methane, it does not take much. All you have to do is visit the website on the screen, buy something, go something, watch something, read something, or to sponsor a program. Or you can stop at the store at 5648 Market Street and buy something in the store. Folks, if you do not believe in miracles, if you do not believe in God, I hope I am giving you the understanding of that there is something that helped me get through the battlefield. And I hope you understand that if you do turn to that higher power in life, it could also help you as well. Believe in something. Believe in something. Well, folks, I'm out here. I'll be back next week looking through over 200 or more stories just to keep you informed. Have a happy and safe 9/11, and remember those who sometimes are forgotten, especially by those who seem like they are going on with their life. Take a pause. Have a good week, everybody. Thank you for tuning to the Mediator with me, Brian West. Peace.
Then dial your operator.
Have no fear, fellow citizens. The Mediator is here.